All right. Good morning. My name is Stephen, and I am a meteorologist here at Spokane that will be guiding us through the fire weather briefing for August 19th. And we also have Sam over in Seattle. Before I get started, just wanted to read the disclosure at the bottom. This meeting is being recorded, and by joining and participating in the session, your consent is being given to the recording. So please keep your cameras off per the NOAA Privacy Act statement. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with our morning satellite imagery. And we continue to have this fairly deep low pressure system off the coast of British Columbia. There is a actually, you know what? I apologize. I believe this is the satellite from yesterday. Did not update this, but what I can tell you is that this front that is out here with this low pressure system is a bit closer. It is starting to move into the very northwest portion of Washington, and it is expected to push through the day tomorrow. And over in eastern Washington, with that, we will see some increased winds. And also, it looks like at least a little bit of light rainfall potentially across far northwest Washington. Is that correct, Sam? Will you get a little bit of light rain with that?
Yeah, it's looking like the far northwest portion. So areas generally along the coast have the highest chances. We're already starting to see some rain early this morning, and that will probably continue at least through the day today.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just wanted to recap with the showers that we saw here in eastern Washington, North Idaho from yesterday. As I was showing, there's quite a bit of lightning down here early in the morning. And these couple of strikes here this is beginning 7 a.m. through currently today. Just a couple of strikes that was from the remnants of the showers going through the late morning hours yesterday. And then there was a couple more lightning strikes up here in North Idaho with some showers and isolated thunderstorms. And I guess it was into the early afternoon hours. And then this is the total precipitation accumulation with those showers that were passing through yesterday. Again, fairly light amounts. There was maybe a pocket of where we got some over 1/10 of an inch. But for the most part, we didn't really see too much in the way of accumulation of rainfall with those. All right, Sam, I'll let you go ahead and get started with our fire weather or for our matrix for today.
Sounds good. Thanks, Stephen. So for the most part, at least today into Wednesday, we're not expecting much in the way of any fire weather concerns, at least across Western Washington. As Stephen had mentioned, it's cooler and cloudier here today with the potential for some light rain, mainly for the areas along the coast and the Olympic Peninsula. However, as we move on in the week and we start to see high pressure build into the area, we'll start to see a warming and drying trend, and that looks like it's going to start on Thursday. So it looks like right now for the west side, we're going to be pretty warm and dry Friday, Saturday. And then the pattern gets a little more uncertain. I'm sure we'll go into that in a little more detail, but looking at Sunday, Monday, it's starting to look to moderate, at least on the west side here, a little bit more in terms of temperatures, and the RHs seem to be a little bit higher. So I've kept that green for now. However, it could potentially change going further on in the week.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sam. Yeah, and for us, at least for the next couple of days with that front, I'm not expecting any precipitation with it. It's going to be dry. It'll be fairly weak, but it does look like there's enough wind. The relative humidity is coming down enough for tomorrow that I did go ahead and color that as an elevated risk for some fire weather conditions across eastern Washington as being dry and breezy. North Idaho, the winds doesn't look like it's going to be breezy enough to be a concern there. So just some locally breezy conditions. And then winds will decrease into Friday, and then getting warmer and drier by Friday. And as we get into the weekend, it's going to be some of our hottest temperatures that we'll see with this next ridge building in. And I do see the potential, at least east of the Cascades, where we start to introduce some instability. So I did add some hot, dry, and unstable for eastern Washington for Sunday into Monday, and then for North Idaho, maybe delayed a day. But like Sam mentioned, there is some uncertainty with this ridge as far as how long it's going to stay around and how it's going to break down as we go into next week. But at least for the east side, I think we're going to kind of hang on to some of those hot, dry, and getting to more unstable conditions as we go into early next week. So I did include this problem of the week graphic for wind and RH concerns for tomorrow. These are the zones that I'm looking at for the potential for some elevated fire weather conditions. Minimum relative humidities in that 17 to 24% range, sustained winds in that 8 to 12, and then seeing some gust 18 to 20 miles per hour. That would mainly be in the basin, Spokane area, Palouse. For the gaps, we could see gusts a little bit stronger, especially the Kittitas Valley, more in the 25 to 30 mile per hour range. And then up here in the Methow Valley, the Okanagan Valley, these winds would be picking up more late in the afternoon into the early evening hours. So the relative humidities would be kind of down in that high teens to around 20%, and then recovering fairly quickly as those winds start to increase in the evening hours. And then, as I sort of alluded to, this is looking into the middle of next week for some different scenarios. The ensembles that we're looking at has kind of started to, looks like, shift a little bit more as we go into the middle of the week, of maybe the ridge kind of hanging on. But there is, you can see this kink here in the ISO bars here of some sort of energy or low pressure energy that would be kind of moving into the ridge. And so will the ridge kind of hang on to its intensity or kind of shift off to the east? That's the big question mark as we go into the middle of next week. And so this cluster 3, this scenario over here, kind of shows a bit more of the shift of the ridge off to the east and a bit deeper of a low kind of forming off the coast. And this would be a better chance for getting more moisture, southerly flow up to the area, and increasing instability. And so a better potential for maybe getting some lightning. And then a very small possibility of only a 6% chance would be some troughing kind of getting into the area by Wednesday. But the better potential here, almost about 80%, is showing the ridge over us and maybe some weak energy starting to form off the coast of California or southern Idaho, Oregon, and maybe some of that energy kind of coming into us. So something we'll have to look out as we go through the weekend into next week. Okay, going into the rest of the presentation here, we don't have any hazards to mention. More specifically for the weather, this is what we're looking at for our high temperatures for today. Not much change from yesterday. Looks like low 70s for the valleys west of the Cascades and getting into the mid 80s. There's going to be quite a bit more sunshine here in eastern Washington, North Idaho. So be kind of feeling a bit more of that solar radiation and feeling a bit warmer here. I could see highs getting up to around 90 for some spots there. For our minimum relative humidities, getting a bit drier into the low 20s and upper teens over here on the east side. And for the winds, primarily just a little breezy east of the Cascades. We will see winds kind of picking up through those Cascade gaps. This will be late in the day, kind of a early evening type winds gusting out of the northwest there, and then primarily a southwest with some gusts in the range of about 14 to 16 miles per hour across the Columbia Basin there. Okay, moving on for tomorrow, temperatures fairly similar, and the relative humidities also a bit similar, maybe a little bit drier, and the winds, you'll see a bit of a difference with that frontal passage. A little fairly similar northwest winds through the Cascade Gaps, but where you see it picking up a bit more is across the Columbia Basin into the Spokane area. The Palouse, more of a westerly component, and then even along that Snake River valley there, a westerly or even a little bit of a northwesterly component to the winds there with the warm and moderately dry or near critical values for dryness in that area. Moving on to This would be for Thursday. And more so Thursday night into Friday morning. I wanted to show the maximum relative humidities because as that ridge starts to build in, we do see a better potential for some poor relative humidity recoveries in our mid slopes and higher elevations, especially in the Cascades. And that will be the same as we go into Saturday morning as well. And you can see poor or worse recoveries for relative humidities across much of Cascades and expanding a bit more across eastern Washington. And the other thing too with the winds as we go into Friday is we get a bit more of a kind of north or northerly northeast component, a little bit more offshore or less onshore, maybe is a better way of saying it, with the winds. North Idaho, where we do have some larger fires there, you'll see the winds out of the northeast instead of out of the west across there. Not particularly gusty, but it will be just a change in the wind direction. You could see some gusts up to around 15 miles per hour then. And then into Saturday, this is some of our warmest temperatures. At least in eastern Washington, can get up to the upper 90s, up to near 100 degrees, and the minimum relative humidities fairly dry as well into the low teens. And is this also going to be your warmest and driest day there on the west side, Sam?
Yeah, so right now it is looking like it. It's looking like Saturday.
Okay, yeah, and I can see you got some mid to upper 80s there for your valleys. Even it looks like getting close to 90 or into the lower 90s for some spots there for your high temperatures. And then minimum relative humidities look like getting to near 40 or even a little bit below 40% there too. Okay, well, let's go ahead and transition to our trends. And I think I got your spot there loaded up for you, Sam. So go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. So yeah, for the most part, again, kind of just reiterating the next today and tomorrow, we're looking cooler and cloudier on the west side with pretty good humidity recoveries overnight and continued onshore flow. But then as we get into Thursday, we start to see the trends start to the temperatures at least start to increase and the relative humidity start to dip. And this is for the Cascades, this spot. But generally, that's what we're going to continue to see going into the weekend. And as you can kind of see highlighted there, the temperatures continue to increase and the relative humidities are really starting to dip into the 20s and maybe even the teens for a few spots. So that's really what we're kind of highlighting with our elevated fire weather conditions. At least it would be Friday and Saturday being the most most elevated day for right now. And then on our side, it looks like temperatures do start to moderate somewhat going into early next week. But again, conditions may change and that may still be a little bit uncertain at this time. However, the humidities right now are looking to trend a little bit better.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sam. And then as we cross the Cascades here, I'm going to go ahead and select Escure RAWs. And mainly just wanted to point out the winds increasing a bit for tomorrow with that frontal passage. Got the same trends in the temperatures, just warmer over here on the east side. The relative humidity is even drier. And then for North Idaho, let's look at Maggie Peak. And again, a bit breezy here tomorrow with that frontal passage, sustained winds. Now, of course, this is up on the peak or on the mountaintop here, but sustained around 12 miles per hour and could see some gusts up to around 20. Lower elevations won't see winds quite that strong. But also I wanted to point out that the recoveries here, especially as we get into Friday morning, and I think that will continue for the most part into the weekend, will be a bit, we won't see the recoveries as well. And you can see also, I just want to point out the winds there shifting out of the northeast. So instead of seeing a westerly direction to the winds, as we go into the weekend, it'll be an easterly direction to our winds there in the panhandle. Okay, finishing up here, our 8 to 14 day outlook. There's a better chance for above average temperatures as we finish the month of August, and then a better chance for above normal precipitation, especially if we're able to kind of get low pressure setting up offshore, bringing moisture into the area. That would be a good pattern for getting some precipitation here and also potentially some lightning. Okay, that wraps up the briefing for this morning. I'll go ahead and stop the recording.